All right, so you're probably listening to this with wireless headphones, right? I mean, they're everywhere these days, but have you ever stopped to think about what's actually going on inside your head while you're jamming to your favorite tunes?
Interesting question.
Yeah, so today we're going deep into the world of Bluetooth and EMF radiation to answer the question, are your AirPods a secret health hazard?
A lot of people are asking that these days, and it's a good question with all this wireless technology around us.
For sure. And a lot of our sources are buzzing about wireless headphones and, especially AirPods pumping out this cancer-causing radiation.
Yeah, so to get to the bottom of that, we really need to understand what EMF radiation is and how it works. It's everywhere, but it comes in different forms.
Okay.
Think of it like a spectrum. On one end, you have that high-frequency radiation like X-rays.
Right.
We all know those can damage cells and could lead to cancer.
Yeah, that end of the spectrum sounds a little scary. So where does Bluetooth fit into all of this?
Well, Bluetooth uses low-frequency radiation. It's considered non-ionizing. So unlike X-rays, it doesn't have the energy to directly damage your DNA.
So it's kind of like the warmth from a lamp then, as opposed to like intense X-rays.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. But even though it's low energy, a lot of people are still worried about that constant exposure, especially from something, we wear right next to our brains.
Right, it's like beamed right in there. That's what makes this so interesting. So is there research out there that can tell us if this low-level radiation is actually harmful?
Well, this is where things get tricky. We don't have any studies yet that look specifically at the long-term effects of, headphone radiation. Most of the research is actually focused on cell phones.
Oh, okay.
Which emit the same kind of non-ionizing radiation, but at much higher levels.
Gotcha. So are scientists saying that cell phones cause cancer?
It's unfortunately not that simple. Some studies have shown a possible link between heavy cell phone use and certain types of brain tumors. But other studies haven't found a strong connection. It's like a puzzle where some pieces seem to fit and others just don't.
Wow, so even with something we use every day like cell phones, we don't have a clear answer?
Exactly, and that's why it's tough to say anything definitively about Bluetooth headphones. We do know that they emit significantly less radiation than cell phones, like 10 to 400 times less.
Wow, that's a huge difference. So does that mean we can just assume that they're safe?
Not necessarily. Even though the levels are lower, it's still a good idea to be mindful of our exposure, especially since we're talking about something we use so close to our heads.
Right, so even though the science is still up in the air, it's probably best to err on the side of caution.
Yeah, and that's where some other concerns about wireless headphones come into play. Even if the radiation piece isn't a big deal, there are other potential downsides to think about, especially with prolonged use.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've talked about radiation, but what are these other concerns? Could those innocent-looking AirPods actually be hiding some darker secrets?
Welcome back. So in part one, we were talking about, are Bluetooth headphones secretly dangerous because of radiation?
Right, all that EMF stuff?
Yeah, and while we're not totally sure about the science yet, it does seem like the levels from Bluetooth are way lower than what we're getting from cell phones.
Definitely. But we also hinted that radiation isn't the only thing to worry about when it comes to these little guys.
For sure.
Our sources are bringing up some other potential downsides of using these headphones all the time, especially for hours every day.
Definitely. And one of the big ones is our hearing.
Right. I mean, we're blasting sound directly into our ears. It seems like that would have some effect, especially over time.
Absolutely. The World Health Organization thinks that over 1 billion young people could be at risk for hearing loss because of unsafe listening.
Wow.
And, wireless headphones are so easy to use and take around. They can definitely play a part in that.
So it's not just what we're listening to, it's how we're listening to it.
Exactly. The biggest thing is the volume. The louder the sound, the more stress you're putting on those tiny little hair cells in your inner ear. They're what send those sound signals to your brain.
Okay.
And once those hair cells are damaged, they don't grow back.
So basically, these earbuds blasting my favorite music could be slowly damaging my hearing.
Yeah, think of it like this. A normal conversation is around 60 decibels.
Okay.
A loud concert can get up to like 110 decibels.
Wow, that's loud.
The general rule is to keep your volume under 85 decibels for no more than 8 hours a day.
8 hours, that's a work day.
Right. So what about noise-canceling headphones? I mean, they're made to block out all the noise around you.
Right?
Seems like it'd be good for your ears.
Yeah, for sure.
Sometimes it's true. Noise canceling can actually help protect your hearing because you can listen at lower volumes even when it's noisy.
That's true. You don't have to crank it up to hear your music.
Right. But there's a downside too. Since they block out so much sound, they can make you feel isolated.
Oh, yeah.
Which can be confusing and even dangerous in some situations.
Like walking down a busy street and you can't hear the traffic.
Exactly. It's all about being aware of what's going on around you and using those noise-canceling features the right way.
Right. Makes sense.
But even beyond safety, there's another downside. What about the social impact of always being plugged in?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I've definitely tuned out the world with my AirPods in. And I see other people doing the same thing. It's like everyone's in their own little world.
Exactly. Wireless headphones create a kind of barrier between us and the world.
Hmm.
And when we're always plugged in, it's harder to have conversations and, pick up on social cues and just connect with people.
It's like we're trading real life for a soundtrack.
Exactly. And while a personalized soundtrack can be nice, we don't want to miss out on the world around us.
Good point. So it's not just our ears we need to think about, it's our social connections too. It seems like there's a lot more to think about than we realize when we put in those earbuds.
Totally. There's one more thing that people don't talk about much: hygiene.
Oh no, am I doing something wrong?
It's not about doing something wrong. It's more about being aware that bacteria can build up on our earbuds, especially those little in-ear ones.
Okay, I'll admit I don't clean mine as often as I should.
It's pretty common, but think about it. We stick these things in our ears and it's warm and moist in there.
Uh-huh.
And if we're not cleaning them, all kinds of bacteria and earwax can build up.
Okay, now I'm grossed out.
So how do we keep them clean?
Yeah.
Most companies say to wipe them with a damp cloth after every use. You can also use a cotton swab to clean the ear tips and get rid of any gunk.
Okay.
You can even get special cleaning kits or UV sanitizers if you want to be extra thorough.
Good to know. So we've talked about hearing loss, noise canceling, social isolation, even hygiene. Seems like even if we're not too worried about radiation, there's still a lot to think about with these wireless headphones.
Definitely.
Anything else we haven't covered, or are we ready to wrap things up?
I think we've hit the main points. There are always new things to learn and talk about, though, and we'll get into that in part 3.
Awesome. So next time on the deep dive, we'll finish up our journey into the wireless world and give you some final thoughts to chew on. All right, welcome back. So we've been on quite the journey through the world of wireless headphones, haven't we?
We have covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, from EMF radiation to all those other things like, hearing loss and social isolation.
And those noise-canceling features.
Oh, yeah, right.
Which can be good or bad, depending on how you use them.
Exactly. It seems like there's a lot to think about with these little devices. It's not just about, putting in your earbuds and tuning everything out.
Not anymore, no. It's about finding that balance, enjoying the convenience and, that amazing audio quality,
Yeah.
but not messing up our health or well-being in the process.
And finding that balance could mean different things for different people, right?
Exactly.
Like some people might hear all this and say, okay, I'm done with wireless.
It's possible. For some people, the risks might be bigger than the benefits.
Right.
But others might just need to change how they use them.
Right, like setting limits on how long they listen or being more aware of their surroundings when they may have those earbuds in.
Exactly. And technology is always changing.
Yeah, that's true.
Some new headphones actually have features that can help us use them more safely.
Oh, really? Like what?
Well, some of them have sensors that keep track of your volume,
Okay.
and they warn you if it's getting too loud.
So they're like little bodyguards for your ears.
Exactly. And there's been a lot of research into making wireless tech safer and more efficient, stuff that emits even less radiation. So maybe the headphones of the future will be even safer.
That's good to know. It seems like with any technology, it's about understanding those risks and benefits and using it in a way that works for you and is good for you.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better.
So after this whole deep dive, where do you stand on that question we started with? Are wireless headphones secretly dangerous?
Well, I think secretly dangerous is probably a bit too dramatic.
Yeah, there are definitely things to watch out for, like we talked about.
Right.
But if we're using them responsibly and taking those precautions, they can be a safe and fun part of our lives.
Totally. It's all about staying informed and making good choices. And, listening to our bodies.
Great advice. So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with one final thought to think about. What's your relationship with wireless technology like?
Is it working for you? Could it use some adjustments?
That's up to you to decide. But hopefully this deep dive has given you the knowledge you need to figure that out.
And that's what the deep dive is all about, helping you understand this complicated world.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this journey.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into something interesting.